So, President Biden will soon not have a choice regarding a very polarizing topic, and Americans are expected to suffer for it. Our country at the moment is at a very critical stage, especially as we're bound for a presidential election in 2024. So, this means that every choice made from the start of this year to November is going to be criticized by both Democrats and Republicans, which more than likely kind of puts the president in a very tight spot. Now, what I'm going to discuss with you guys today is something that probably affects your very way of living in 2024 all the way to the end of this year. A change that some may not find very favorable. A change that's being influenced by the likes of Russia, Ukraine, China, and Iran.
The White House admits that the number of border crossings is now historic, but they also say they need Congress to sign off on more funding for places like Chicago and for those arriving at places like this, the city's landing zone. So the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois has received tens of millions of dollars for migrant placement, but still Mayor Brandon Johnson says that they need more funding. They need more dollars to help as more migrants filter in. Just today, you mentioned it, 4 more buses expected, only one with a permit to drop off. There are currently more than 14,000 migrants in shelters across the city. The spokesperson for Department of Homeland Security says they continue to crack down on illegal crossings, working with the migrants. But short term, they need more money to help protect the border.
Now, before any of you comment, I want you guys to understand that I get that we're helping people from all over the world. But we got to admit that these things are affecting Americans here at home as well. And like I said, with all the many conflicts that we continue to be a part of, experts still call out the danger that may be lurking right here within our borders. Now, with that, I want to ask you guys, do you agree that money is the only solution that can help our government officials take control when it comes to people entering the country through different means? Means that may not necessarily be legal within our country? Comment yes if you guys feel that a budget increase is necessary in order to help, and comment no if you think that there's some other viable options that can help more. And while you guys think about it, make sure to hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below this video. All right, guys, so getting back on topic here. So the White House is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You see, there's a slight issue if we're talking about the budget, given that, they're still not sure if anything will even get passed this year, given that the House Republicans want changes at the border.
President Biden has proposed $14 billion in new funding to hire new border agents, asylum officers, and immigration judges, as well as new technology to combat the flow of fentanyl. But tonight, you'll hear from the new Republican Speaker of the House in an interview with us at CBS News why that proposal is being rejected. Here are the facts. A record-breaking number of migrants are crossing into the United States, an average of about 250,000 per month since August. And in December, the numbers hit an all-time high with more than 300,000.
All we're asking them is go to the ports of entry.
Even as House Speaker Mike Johnson and a group of more than 60 fellow Republicans were getting briefed near the U.S.-Mexico border, migrants waded across the Rio Grande.
America is at a breaking point with record levels of illegal immigration.
Now, without it, it looks as if they're actually okay with the government shutting down, with the idea that even the White House somewhat agrees that there's a problem to be faced over there. Now, of course, the conundrum is if they actually admit to it, it would probably be a talking point that would be used against President Biden for the presidential election. So they almost can't really do that. Now, obviously, that's something that, they kind of want to avoid that, which brings me to what the federal government is contemplating as they're under pressure from both sides. So look at this, guys. The White House is looking to provide shelter through federal spaces. Now, what exactly does that mean, right? We're talking about properties that belong to the federal government. I think it was like mid last year when a figure was released for vacant federal properties. And I believe it was somewhere around 8,000 properties. So that's probably what they're working on at the moment. Now, I'm guessing that these properties are still being maintained on taxpayer money, which begs the question, what happens if improvements need to be made? Will they need to go through Congress to get more funding? Or do they already have funding available to make the necessary changes to these places? Either way, seems like a big, huge waste of money already. 8,000 vacant properties that no one's using? Really? And we're paying for this stuff? Now, don't get me wrong though. I know that the 1987 McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act exists, and I'm sure that some federal properties have already been used to help the homeless. However, I'm not sure if any of them are going to be transformed to help those that cross the border.
The McKinney-Vento Act is a federal law that protects students experiencing homelessness and their families. The relationship between school and home is integral to student success. If the student loses their home or lives in a place that is dangerous to the people living there, They may qualify for protection under the McKinney-Vento Act. This may look like a student staying in a shelter, hotel, motel, or sharing the housing of others, or even living in their own home that lacks utilities or is infested with vermin. The McKinney-Vento Act ensures that students receive support in obtaining anything needed for their education, including hygiene items, clothing, and educational and medical resources. In addition to support, students have certain rights pertaining to enrollment, attendance, and transportation. Students that qualify for McKinney-Vento are permitted to stay at their home school if it's in their best interest, even if they move to another district during the school year. If this happens, schools are required to provide transportation. If students do have to enroll elsewhere, they are allowed to start the enrollment process even if they don't immediately have the necessary documents, and schools can help them obtain those documents after enrollment. With this support, students can continue to grow and thrive at school, even if housing is a struggle.
If you guys know any places like that, feel free to write it down below. However, and this is something that's going to affect different countries if it pushes through, is that they're also considering using schools, churches, even military bases. Now, I know that last one was kind of questionable, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. Now, for the schools and churches, they're looking for closed ones, okay? I'm guessing that they're not gonna try their luck at schools and churches that have people attending them because, well, that's probably gonna piss off a lot of people. And it's not like they don't wanna help, but I mean, they also have to have their space, you know? With the military bases though, that one's a little bit vague. And actually, if you ask me, it's kind of alarming. I know that you guys already know why, but for those who may not be a part of the community yet, I'm gonna go ahead and discuss that in a little bit. Back in November last year, the southern border noticed a spike in migrants entering the country. Migrants that were surprisingly from China. Now, think about it. How far is China from our borders? I mean, I don't think I really need to open up a map here because it's common knowledge that it's a long way from here, okay? But get this. I think it was November of 2022 to 2023 where the border saw more than 24,000 Chinese citizens go through our borders. And just for context, that's more than the past decade according to the federal government. One huge issue that some lawmakers had with this is that there seemed to be a majority of military-aged men coming through, those that come in alone without wives or even kids.
One of our concerns is we have thousands and thousands of military-aged men coming through Joe Biden's open border, and we really don't know who these people are. Are these people that are going to get 15, 20, 30 people together or 1,000 people together?
Now, obviously, both sides are going to try to pin the blame on the other. That's just pretty much how things work with them. But how do Americans feel about this? Well, I've touched on this topic before, and as I read through your comments, not all of you feel safe knowing that there are possible threats coming into the United States. And not only that, but I've noticed that some of you are conflicted, saying that while helping out those who seek asylum is very important, it's also the job of the federal government to take care of its own people here as well. So of course, my comment section is always open for you guys. So please feel free to sound off there. I'd love to hear from you guys. I like to read through all the comments. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on all of this, as a matter of fact? I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. But before I go, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.